Meghan Markle posted a bizarre video on her social media yesterday, which sent several people into absolute meltdown.
The American Airlines cabin hummed with the usual pre-takeoff chatter when Meghan Markle appeared in the aisle, calm, radiant, scribbling a handwritten thank you note to the crew as if filming a lifestyle ad. One flight attendant later gushed on TikTok that the Duchess was all grace and sunshine, and tabloids lapped up every snapshot of her casual stroll at 30,000 feet. What no one in coach knew, however, was that halfway across the Atlantic, a very different airline crew had decided to break 4 years of silence, and their story would flip that perfect photo op on its head. A British Airways attendant from the 2019 South Africa Royal Tour, anonymous but verifiably on the flight manifest, told an online columnist that Meghan never once cuddled, cooed at, or even looked at baby Archie during the 11-hour journey. The nanny, she claimed, handled every feed, every fuss, every lullaby. At first glance, that could be exhaustion or jet-lagged new parent overwhelm. But to a public primed by years of rumour, it sounded like the final click of a long-loaded trigger. That rumour, of course, is the so-called phantom pregnancy theory.
Around and around. Okay. This is deeply problematic on a number of levels. Number one, here's the problem. We don't like you, Meghan Markle.
The belief that Meghan Markle never carried either of her children and instead relied on a secret surrogate. Fact-checkers have dismissed it for years, pointing to official birth certificates, the Duchess's own pregnancy speeches, and a complete lack of hard evidence. Yet the theory never truly died. Each new Sussex photograph seemed to spawn another Reddit megathread dissecting belly angles, birth timelines, or the now infamous clip in which her baby bump appeared to fold as she bent to pick up a dropped program. Snopes chalked that moment up to stiff fabric and a telephoto lens, but online sleuths archived it as the day the illusion slipped. Into that simmering cauldron stepped a woman identifying herself only as DL. 6 days ago, she uploaded 3 grainy videos and a trove of medical scans to a throwaway YouTube channel, claiming she was flown to a locked-down compound in California to deliver not one, but both Sussex children. She alleges she signed a brutal NDA, received verbal promises of lifelong financial support, and was then ghosted after the second birth. The footage shows her heavily pregnant in a sparse medical room, reading the date into camera. Another clip shows her tear-streaked, cradling a newborn while a masked nurse checks vitals. DL has offered, on camera, to take a live, third-party supervised DNA test. She says she wants no money, no fame, just truth. If any of that stands up, the constitutional shockwave could rattle clear through Buckingham Palace. Succession law still hinges on heirs being born of the body to a royal marriage, a phrase enshrined centuries before IVF, let alone stealth surrogacy. Should proof emerge that Archie and Lilibet were not carried by Meghan, their HRH styles and their places in the line to the throne could, in theory, evaporate overnight. Parliament would face a legal thicket. UK surrogacy contracts are not enforceable, yet secrecy around a royal birth would undermine public trust in the very fabric of hereditary rule.
My thoughts are, what did I just watch? What a bizarre... You've now ruined the entire vibe of the first hour, Meghan. I hope...
Meghan's team seems acutely aware of the stakes. Hours after DL's videos trended, Sussex-aligned Instagram accounts flooded feeds with sepia-toned clips of the children chasing butterflies in the Montecito garden. Influential mommy bloggers posted pre-written love letters to Meghan's raw, authentic motherhood. A luxury baby clothing brand quietly pulled a sponsored post the next day. Behind that soft focus push, reporters picked up chatter of crisis communications consultants working round the clock, vetting every past employee and every archived email for loose threads. Meanwhile, Harry has gone silent. Friends told The Times he's screening calls and living in a fog of dread, unsure whether to sue, to speak, or to stay invisible and hope the narrative burns out. The palace, for its part, issued exactly 0 statements, continuing the late Queen's maxim that recollections may vary, but saying no more. In the court of TikTok, silence reads like guilt. Comment sections exploded. "If the births were legit, why not take a DNA test tomorrow and end this?" another asked, racking up 2 million likes in a day. Fact-checkers have not been idle. Reuters noted that DL's medical scans lack patient identifiers. The metadata on one video predates Archie's birth by 3 weeks. And no mainstream outlet has verified that the location is a licensed clinic. Snopes reiterated that UK birth registration law requires a mother's presence and signature. Fraud here could risk prosecution, yet no police inquiry appears open. Still, conspiracy channels counter that a royal cover-up would involve precisely that kind of paperwork smokescreen. Brands are skittish. A publishing house poised to launch Meghan's children's book sequel has paused indefinitely, according to an anonymous editor. A wellness streaming service postponed a documentary celebrating modern motherhood, fearing subscriber backlash. An LA-based PR executive compared the vibe to Ellen 2.0. No one wants to be the last partner standing when receipts drop. Inside Montecito, former staffers describe tension thick enough to slice. One aide claims Meghan burst into tears after seeing a viral side-by-side of DL's pregnant belly and Meghan's supposedly folding bump. She said, "They're trying to erase my motherhood." Another staffer, recently resigned, says NDAs are now being retroactively tightened. Break clause penalties reportedly start at $1 million. Royal historians see a larger storm on the horizon. If succession ever hinges on DNA swabs rather than handwritten birth certificates, centuries of tradition collapse into a science lab, notes Dr. Ada Hawthorne of Oxford. She points out that no reigning monarch has faced a paternity test scandal, let alone a maternity one, in modern times. Were Parliament forced to strip 2 children of titles, she warns, Republican sentiment could surge. A monarchy survives on myth as much as on law. Question the births, you question the crown. Yet hard proof remains elusive. DL's camp says 3 independent labs have offered to test samples, but lawyers for the Sussexes are allegedly requesting court oversight to prevent chain of custody tampering. Privately, palace courtiers fear the optics of stonewalling. Block a test and fuel suspicion, allow a test and risk catastrophe. On social media, the debate has split into tribes. Team Surrogate demands transparency, waving freeze frames of the folding bump.
The belly doesn't look normal, doesn't look like where a pregnant woman's belly is, and I don't understand what all those bumps on the belly are. I don't get it.
Team Sussex calls DL a grifter chasing clicks, citing fact-check debunks, and pointing out that every UK hospital involved has reconfirmed its records. Somewhere in the middle sit millions of casual viewers, binge-watching TikTok explainers that play like royal-themed true crime. The deeper people dig, the stranger the coincidences look. Why did the Sussexes release only Archie's feet in their first family portrait? Why was Lilibet introduced via a hazy backyard snapshot rather than the hospital steps? Why were no medical staff ever interviewed on record? Each question might have a normal answer: privacy concerns, security protocols, a mother's nerves, but the absence of clear documentation now feels, to many, like a drumbeat of doubt. As the buzz crescendos, constitutional scholars have floated nightmare scenarios. If titles are revoked, will the US automatically recognize the children's dual citizenships? Could future diplomatic roles be compromised? Would Parliament need a royal succession, parentage-proof act? Historians recall the 2013 reform that ended male preference primogeniture, but nothing in that legislation envisioned a surrogate heir. Behind palace walls, King Charles reportedly convened senior advisors to scope contingency options for every outcome, from quietly validating Meghan's paperwork to, in extremis, issuing letters patent that redefine eligibility in broader terms. Such a move could invite backlash from traditionalists and embolden Republicans demanding a referendum on the monarchy's future. DL's next step may arrive sooner than the palace can strategize. Her lawyer hinted on a live stream that third-party evidence authentication is already scheduled, cryptic jargon for an independent lab booking. Should swabs match, the fallout would dwarf any previous royal scandal. Should they fail, the Sussexes will brand the saga a hate-fueled smear. Yet even a negative result might not extinguish belief. Conspiracies rarely die, they mutate. And so the Duchess, who once reinvented the royal playbook, now faces a crisis woven from the same digital tools she mastered: social storytelling, viral imagery, carefully curated intimacy. Every new photo op, every floral Instagram post, every podcast anecdote about motherhood lands not as reassurance, but as kerosene. The more picture-perfect the scene, the louder the click of suspicious keyboards. Viewers watching this saga unfold aren't just rubbernecking royal drama, they're witnessing the collision of monarchy, modern media, and the forensic culture of internet fandom. Birth certificates meet EXIF data, crown traditions meet chain of custody protocols. At stake is more than a duchess's reputation or two children's courtesy titles. It's the question of whether 21st century royals can still trade on mystique when every pixel and paperwork line is a potential smoking gun. For now, a single sweeping truth remains out of reach. All sides brandish receipts, but none have laid down the trump card that ends debate. Maybe that card never existed. Maybe it's sealed in a Montecito safe. Or maybe, just maybe, it's waiting in a cotton swab destined for a sterile lab where crowns mean nothing and DNA never lies. Until that day, the sky-high smile at 30,000 feet and the cold silence inside Buckingham Palace form two halves of a story begging to be reconciled. The next move could come from a lab technician, a parliamentary clerk, or a mother who insists she was edited out of her own life. When the answer finally surfaces, it won't just reshape the Sussex narrative, it might redefine what it means to inherit power in the age of viral proof. So while the world scrolls, speculates, and waits for the swab, ask yourself, in a battle between rumour and record, which side deserves the burden of proof and who will carry it across the finish line first?